The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this week. My name is Tanya, and I'm the Marketing Manager over here at Struxoft Solutions. So during today's session, Alex will be walking through new features available within the latest ONYX release. Just for those of you who are new with us today, ONYX is our new cloud production manufacturing solution that gives users the ability to manage every aspect of panel design, scheduling, delivery, and machine output from any web-enabled device in the world. So because of this, Alex will be walking through a quick overview of ONYX, as well as some of the new features, such as the integration with Microsoft Azure BD B2C, the generic sheather, and a couple more new features. Just before we get going, I'd like to remind everyone that at the end of the webinar, we'll be taking a couple of live questions if we have the time. In order to be selected, please press the raise hand button on the dashboard. Just please also make sure that your mic is working correctly. If you'd prefer, you can also ask questions throughout the webinar in the Questions tab of the GoToWebinar dashboard. We'll make sure to answer those and get back to you by email within 24 hours. All right, that's it for me. I'm going to hand off to Alex now.
Thank you, Tanya. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. It's been a little while, a few months that we've made one of these for ONYX. So there has been some updates done to the software. I'm going to assume that some of you have already used this, but there may be a couple that this is the first time seeing it, or you guys haven't really seen it since, let's say, four or 5 months ago, I think, when I had done this the first time. So I'm going to go through it as I typically would for someone new, but I'm going to accelerate a little bit, and then I'm going to point out what has been added basically with the latest update. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to head over to the login page. Before we start anything in here, I'm going to go ahead and open up a new page here. All right. So this has changed. You still have your login information here that you would put in, but now we've given access to clients the ability of signing up for ONYX, whereas previously we would be sending out the account information, your password. This was something that we would create on our end in order to give you access to ONYX. Now clients can come here in the sign up now. You place your email in here. Given names, surnames, passwords, and then you would ask to send verification code. And then you'll receive an email on your end with the verification code. You input it, and you now have access to ONYX. Now, of course, if you're doing this for the first time, you obviously won't see anything when you log in. It may even give you a message like something forbidden, or there's nothing viewable. So then you need to contact someone who has an active ONYX account, and they can invite you to the ONYX account. So in my case right now, for example, I can go ahead for my projects here, and I can say manage project users, and then I can add new users. So the same way that it kind of used to work, the person will receive an email. If they haven't created an account, then they'll be prompted with the same stuff that we just did now. And they'll be able to join you on your projects or within your account. So those are the changes done for the login. We're going to notice them also once you're in ONYX and you log in. So I'm going to go ahead here. I'm actually going to log out. It'll be similar. So you'll have the same API selection, and now it's going to say login with Azure B2C. They've done this to increase the security and make everyone feel safe when logging in through our website. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here. Oops. Okay. And then I'm going to pick one of my projects that I want to upload to. So I'm going to keep this support project. Okay, so for everybody here who is already familiar with MWF, I've got a model. So this was created using our design software within Revit, MWF Pro Metal or Pro Wood. And what we're going to be doing now is taking this information from within Revit and sending it to the cloud on ONYX. So this model has some operations that are already defined. Those will be reflected in ONYX. And then we also have the ability to assign operations through ONYX with the CNC machine settings. So going through the workflow, you would upload your sections. So this is going to open up. This works with lumber as well as sheathing and hardware. Currently, there's no sheathing in this project, but I will show you a project that does have sheathing because of one of the new tools, as Tanya mentioned at the beginning, which is our generic nailer. So we'll see that in a few minutes. So in here, I would select my members that are creating my panels. I would assign the proper section shape. Once this is done, I would hit upload. As you can see here, there are different versions. This is because I've already uploaded some of these. And then you can always go double check under ONYX component what is actually on the cloud right now. And then if you needed to remove any of these, you can always select them and hit delete. And then this is going to actually take them out of the cloud service. Okay. Once that's done, the next portion would be to upload your panels. So if I don't select anything, it's going to pick the entire project. So I'm going to actually do it right now. It shouldn't take too long. There's only 60, 70 panels in there. And it's going to go grab everything. So floors, walls, trusses. Now you'll notice some of them are already red. That's because they're locked. They've already been uploaded and I didn't want anybody to come and change anything. And then this is our upload panels dialog box. Now this has changed since the beginning. So what we do have here is when you're going to select your panels to upload them to the cloud, you'll notice on this side we now have the component status. So this will allow you to double check if there's anything missing. So in this case, I don't have this member uploaded right now to the cloud. So what you could do is go to the components upload manager. This is going to bring you back to that page we were just at for the upload section. And I can upload these. Okay, so really quickly, you can filter through what has been uploaded and not uploaded. And then it's quick and easy to see what components are missing. Another thing that we've done is, if I go here to the ONYX panels to see which ones have already been uploaded, I'm going to get an entire list of the panels, the trusses, the floor panels as well, and which Revit projects they belong to. And this is important because when you create a project, you can throw different components from different projects. So you can have, as you can see here for this ONYX project, I'm using 3 Revit files. So I've uploaded things from 3 different Revit projects. Okay, so now when you're in Revit, we have made it so that no matter which project you're open, as long as the selection that you've made for your project on ONYX is active, this is going to show you all the different panels from different projects that are there. So I don't necessarily need to have this lip notch Revit project open. I'll see the panels here. And then you can go ahead in here and you'd be able to delete these panels if necessary, if ever you need to remove some. Once you hit delete, again, this will remove it from the ONYX platform. And then everything here you can filter through. It's really nice and easy. Okay, so I'm going to head and close this. And then this is going to take us to ONYX. At this point, I don't really need to come back into Revit. All that information is on the cloud. So unless there's some actual architectural changes that need to be done, we won't have to come back onto Revit. So heading over here, I've got my project that I'm going to be working with as the support one. But before we start, just like to remind you, your CNC machines, this is where you're going to set these up. So in my case, I have a couple of them available, which we're going to see here on the roll former, like Howick, Beck, Pinnacle, and a generic one. So today I'm going to just leave it as is for Howick, and this is where you would add settings and create your machine settings with the operations. So just to give you a quick look at what the default page would look like for most of them, it would be something like this. So you have the different operations that you need to input. And then this obviously changes depending if you're using Howick, Beck, Pinnacle, for example. Once this is good, the components type page here is where we would be assigning our machines to all of these components that we uploaded from Revit. These grids that you see, Okay, this whole page here where you're seeing the different columns is what we call the grid. You'll notice this a little bit everywhere. These can be customized to only view what you want. You have the ability to save your views on pretty much every page that has a grid at this point. So this has been updated now so that work orders, your panel manager, anything that you change, I can hit this little eyeball, save view, give it a name. And the reason why this comes in handy is because you can export information from these grids. So you'll notice here at the top, I have export to CSV. So whatever is visible is what's going to get exported. Get out of here. And again, this is the page where you would be assigning your machine. So assign CNC machine to whatever is selected. And you can also use this in order to plug in different machine settings. So if you have two different machines for different members, it's just as easy as going into your filter here and go here, for example, contains, and then I'm looking for anything that's a structural. Okay, and then it'll filter out, and then I could select these and assign a specific machine, and then switch out for any other family type or section shape, for example. It'd probably be easier with that. Yeah, put this back to normal. All right. Staying within the settings again, we've got label configurations, we've got report templates. Report templates are going to be really handy for a quick tool to create your bill of materials, your material reports. So for example, if I go in here now, I may have already created one, report A, but I will make another one right now. So this is your new report template. Again, you're looking at the grid and you're trying to see what's going to be important for you when you're going to create this report. So this has a lot of options. You can turn on whichever ones you'd like, hide the ones that are unnecessary, and then whatever's visible here, I can hit save as, and then give this a template. So I'm going to call this report B and save. And then we're going to see these later on. Okay. And one more thing before we get to the next page is the label configuration. So for anybody who needs to create labels for their printers so that you can stick onto your panels, for example, this is where you're going to be able to create this. We currently have a default one that's created. Just to give you an idea, it has the barcode, a little bit of information with the panel that it's associated to. This information gets generated automatically once you print the label. But right here under add configuration is where you would create it. Now this tool is, the team has been looking into developing it further for it to be more robust. Right now what you have is going to be simple text that you can add. And then I can either type it in from here or double click and change it here. Test, for example. And then I can add the QR code directly into this page, manipulate it with these little red markers, as well as not necessarily everyone is going to want this, but you can use this in order to actually see a visual of the panel. Oops, let me just go within it. So for example, whatever your panel is would be showcased in this view. Exit. But I think right now, the main thing that you guys would want to be using this for is obviously the QR code with the text. And the dynamic text, for example, as I said, this will change according to what panel it's associated to. So we can come in here, deadlines, the length, height. Okay, we have quite a few parameters to tie into here. Okay, and then again, I'll show you where this is used a little bit later on. So I think that's it. Everything's configured. Unit setting, obviously, if you guys are using metric or imperial, this will be something for you to look over. Okay, we have the different tolerances. And now I am going to jump, just close this, into the project viewer. So project viewer, this is where you're going to be able to sequence your project. So what I've done here is I've uploaded the Revit project that I was using for this model. Again, you can see that there's other ones available. And then this is all separated through type and level. So if I only wanted the first level, if I only want to see my walls, I can just check these, then hit load panel. So inside of this view, we've added some stuff in order to see your members. So as you can see down here, you can do this by do show parts for all panels, show parts for selected panels, and let that run. So for example, if I pick a few of these just to show you, and I say show parts for selected panels, it's just gonna go through the animation and it's gonna bring everything in. Now you won't see your operations in here. So if you had any holes cut or punched, we'll see that in the actual CNC editor later on. So the main focus in here is gonna be the sequencing tool. You'll notice some of these are already been sequenced because they're green, but basically I come in here, I give it my increment, what's the current number that we're at, what was the last one used, and then you have different types. So you can put, let's say now it's option A, so it's gonna sequence everything with option A. Then I can change this, if I hit cancel and I go to option B, for example, I can sequence again, but maybe in a different order for a different kind of output. I just go back in just to showcase. Some of these have already been sequenced prior. Okay, and then you can hit save. Now you'll notice up here I have something here called stacking. This is in the work. The team is looking to add bundling, stacking in order to create your trucks basically. This is all going to be done within this project viewer page. So look out for that in the upcoming months also. Okay, get out of the project viewer. And now, again, we're back to the panel manager here with a grid. So something interesting that the team has done is facilitate how you can filter through these columns. So for example, if I pick a couple of these, then my members grid will get populated with all the available members. Okay. And as I was mentioning earlier, if you need to create some kind of report, maybe for just your C profiles, or again, if you're losing the description, such as in MWF, so cripples, your jacks, your header pieces, I can come in here and filter these to, let's say, cripple, and then I'm only going to see the available members that are CR coded, and then you can select everything. And you can generate a new report. And this generate new report is what's going to be aiming at that report A and report B that I created earlier. And then you can give this a title. So I'm going to call these cripples, for example, and hit save. So now this is going to punch out all this information to that specific report that I wanted. So if I go back here, I had already created it for the example. I would select this. Okay, let's try that one more time. Grab this, generate new report. Call this cripples 2. Oops, sorry. I was on the wrong page, that's why. Under your material reports, you have your cripples 2 that I just created now. So once I select this, it's gonna bring me to the page, and it's gonna give me the count of everything that I have that was selected when I generated that report. And then from this point on here, we can export this to CSV if needed. You can copy the report. You can rename this. So a good, quick way, basically, of getting reports out. Okay, so I'm going to go and cancel this filter and just show you that something that we're making interactive too is without having to type in necessarily what you're looking for. A lot of these columns are slowly going to be recognizing what's available. So I can just pick my C profiles or my C profiles with it because that's the only options basically in these columns right now. So I can filter this way. So again, this is everywhere. This is in your panel manager. This is in your work orders. All right. Next, when you have your panels selected, this is where you can print those labels that I was mentioning before. So we've created a label, for example, and then you can come here and hit print label. It's going to ask you to pick that template. So right now I only have the default. and then you can either print it directly or you can generate a PDF and then send it to your printer. Okay, and let's move on to the CNC Editor. Again, anybody who has already seen ONYX is going to be familiar with this page. This is where you get to see your panel with the operations tied to it. So in my case, like I said, I was using the CNC Editor for my Howick machine settings. Now, one of the things that they've changed is they have created a default placement for the panel, considering it as if you had a table underneath, okay? So as if it was in your shop. So right now it's laid flat. This had no sheathing on it. It's going to be placing, if I just select here, E1 to E2. Okay, so again, if you're familiar with the MWF software, this is how your stud placement gets inserted and labeled from the inside to the outside. So we're looking at it this way. This is default without sheathing. Now, what we have done is added a generic nailer, as I mentioned. So I'm going to show you guys an example here where we have sheets. So let me just change this. We've got a couple different views that you can pick from. I'm going to make it transparent so that you can see that there's the panel underneath. And this time, if I go ahead and I select my end stud, let me just hide the sheathing real quick. You'll notice now that it's E2 and E1. Okay, so this with sheathing, it's going to default it to have the sheet on top, and basically now the panel has been flipped compared to what we had before. So all this, these are the defaults, but you can also control this within Revit when you're creating your panels. So if you have panels with sheathing, you can assign what we call the top side marker from one of our MWF tools. Okay, and you can tell it this side of the panel is what I want to be on the top side when I bring it into ONYX. So if you have like plywood on both sides of the panel, you can tell it which one that you're expecting to see once you come into the software. Let me just turn this back on. All right. I'd just like to remind you guys, if you have any questions, feel free to either write them down in the chat, or once this comes to an end, I'll be happy to answer anything that has to do with this presentation or ONYX related. Okay, so now we're going to go look at this new tool that they've added. So we've got our sheets in here. Really simple. Right now, as I said, it's pretty generic. Obviously, if you guys have the nailing machine that you're going to be using, if it has specifications, this is something that the team can always work with you in order to get the results that you're looking for. Right now, if I hit this size sheathing, it's going to ask me to pick my machine. I'm going to run this, and it's going to cut my panels. Okay, I'm just going to go here in my top view. So now it's cut the sheets. We have our opening, and now I want to generate my fastener lines. Okay, so it's going to go ahead and plug in all the nails and fastener lines. There we go. Let me just zoom in here a little bit. Not too much. Okay. Now, again, depending on my settings, so if I go back here to the beginning where we had our CNC machines, you have roll former and then nailing and routing. So I have the generic nailer. And there's a few options here that you set up. So you can perimeter conditions and your infill conditions, so edge offsets. This is why we're seeing that my nails are a little bit offset on the edges. And this is, yeah, so this is it. So just want to show you a quick view of the actual machine options. Once it's inside of here, so these were the two automated tools. If you want to manipulate any of them, or you want to add lines manually, you would select this first tool here. Again, it'll ask you for the machine, and then you have the option here to draw. Always make sure that you have your sheathing layer selected, and this will allow you to use the tool. So for example, I can just drop this in and draw. Obviously, this would not be good. And then what you can also do is, I'm going to just hit escape so I'm no longer drawing, but I'm still using the fastener line tool. And this will allow me to be able to actually select my line. So now I have this line selected. Its type mark is perimeter, but I can change this to infill if I wanted. And I can also change the spacing for my nails. So for example, I can go and let's make this a lot closer, for example. And you'll see this has just changed. I'm just going to exit out and not save that. Okay. So that's it. And then you have the validate fastener. So if ever your rules are set up that your nails can't be within a certain distance of your edges of your panel edge, or if there's nails that are running into each other, you'll get a red display, for your circles to allow you to notify you that there's a mistake or something that needs attention, basically. Okay, so I'm going to get out of this one. I'm going to go back to the panel that had no sheathing. And this, again, is just for anybody here who maybe hasn't had a chance to actually look at this before for ONYX. All of our operations are available in this ribbon. If I zoom in, okay, you'll see with the colors. So for example, this yellow here is the lip notch. These little green not spheres, but cylinder here is the dimples. You got some swage. Okay, so all that is placed. Everything can be manipulated. And then, as I said, you can go ahead and enter your own operations. So I just go to the top and select my top track and go ahead and drop in slot hole. And then using the red picker, I can move it. I can also select it and move it with the dimensions here if you know what the distance is supposed to be. And we also have the code viewer, which comes in handy also if you need to verify your CNC code while you're working in here. So if I pick, again, for example, this member, it will highlight it. And it also highlights your operations. So let me zoom in. I pick this truss cut, and now over here, it'll highlight it and give me the position for where this is set. Okay. I'm gonna close this. Now, just a heads up, anything that you do in here, if you do some changes, you will need to publish it. And what I mean by that is if you do save as draft, it'll save it so that you can come back and work to it. But if you were to download CNC, which we can do from here or within the panel manager right here, the CNC output that it's going to produce is going to revert back to the original panel the way you uploaded it at the beginning, which is what the reset also does. But if you do changes, you hit publish, and that's going to make the changes permanent and change what the panel is going to output. Anything you do in here, unfortunately, doesn't go back to Revit. So it's if you do changes to the model, we have certain invert connections and trim and extend horizontals, which you can actually modify the members. These changes will not, they won't be reflected in Revit once you reopen your project, let's say. Okay, so this will live within ONYX. That's it for the CNC editor. So I'm going to get out of here and go back to the panel manager. So again, as I was just mentioning, your download CNC in the editor, you're going to be doing one panel at a time. But over here, you can select and download a whole batch. And this is where, work orders will come in handy because you can filter for a specific work order. And work orders are created just here. So for example, I created one called work order 10, and then it's going to populate all the panels that are available, which I can grab and add them. And then I'll have a work order that I can filter for later on. Once you download your CNC, I just go back here. So for example, these panels I did earlier today. So I've already downloaded these. My zip file was created with the information. And what it also does, which is going to be one of the last points we're going to kind of go over right now, is it's going to throw this information back to the manufacturing center. So over in the manufacturing center, you're going to have roll orders that are now created. So this is the one that I created this morning. So somebody who's on the floor, for example, who has access to the account can always just log in once the job has been rolled, and they can come in here and change the status to rolled. Okay, update roll order status. Once this is hit and you select OK, this will update certain areas of ONYX. So if you go back to those panels in the panel manager, the status will no longer be downloaded. It'll be changed to rolled, for example. Okay. And inside of this page, what they've also added recently was the reassign machine settings. So for example, if this roll order was created and you realize that you needed to use a different machine, you can just select it and then reassign machine settings for the panels that are associated to this roll order. Okay. Upload center. This also should be updated. You get your latest release notes. This is the latest public build. So again, if some of you have had access to ONYX and haven't gone on in a while, make sure to stop by here first and download the latest build in order to get all the updates. And I think I will end this webinar on this note. So I hope some of these new things are going to help you guys out when you're navigating ONYX. Again, if you would like to ask any questions, feel free to either raise hand or put a comment in the chat. And if this was the first time you were seeing ONYX and you would like to have a more personal demonstration, basically with myself, feel free to reach out to me or Tanya.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. As he just mentioned, we have time to answer a couple of live questions if there are any. I'd just like to remind everyone that if you'd like to pose a question live, please raise your hand now by clicking on the hand icon in the control panel. Just also please make sure that your audio is working correctly. And just while we wait for any potential questions to come through, I'd just like to remind everyone that the recording of the presentation will be sent through tomorrow. As always, please feel free to share this recording with any colleagues. And as Alex mentioned, if you'd like to set up a demonstration or if you have any follow-up questions after the session has ended, our contact details for our sales team will be provided along with the recording. So we'll just give it a couple of seconds. All right, perfect. That looks like it's a wrap for today. For any questions that have been submitted through the chat, we'll make sure to get to them by email as soon as possible. All right, we'll now be ending the webinar. I just want to say a quick thank you to Alex and a thank you to everyone who registered and attended. Have a great day.